Hello and welcome to the top 8 matches of the Toronto Pokemon Regionals. We're here and we got some exciting matches for you as we fight to see who will be the best player for the day at the Toronto Regionals. Abe, we got a few exciting players here. Why don't you give us another run through of who we got playing today?
So in top 8 we have Joshua Lorcy, Nicholas Borghi, Sam Parton, David Mancuso, Ian McLaughlin, Martin J., Alex LaBelle, and Tristan Medid. These are all incredible players. We're super excited to have them, and they have played amazingly yesterday, so it's great to see them back here again today for top 8.
Yeah, we definitely saw a lot of exciting matches from a lot of these players on stream, and the thing that excites me most is kind of the diversity we're having here. I'm looking at the kind of breakdown of what we're playing, and I see 20 different Pokemon that just exist on one of these players' teams. The most common Pokemon really is six of these players have opted to bring Tapu Koko into their teams today.
Tapu Koko, we've already seen, is incredibly powerful. 6 out of 8 is a incredibly large number. 75% of top cut is running Tapu Koko. It's just such a good Pokemon. We already know that. The great speed, the great power, electric terrain is just such a good ability. It shuts down sleep, and it gives you just such that power boost for your electric attacks. Tapu Koko doesn't have the greatest special attack, but after that electric terrain, it can really put out some damage.
Right. Following Tapu Koko up, we actually have Celesteela, which is a Pokemon that at least surprised me. I thought Celesteela was not being as popular, more people opting to use Kartana, but Kartana's actually lower down on this list. So what do you think about this shift?
It's interesting. Celesteela has, right at the very beginning of the metagame, we saw a ton of Celesteela, and then usage really started to drop off as people started to discover more Arcanine and how good it was in the metagame, having that Intimidate ability and being a bulky fire type. But Celesteela, I feel, has seen a bit of a resurgence. People are starting to figure out a little more how to deal with Arcanine. That's really the only reason I can really see for why Celesteela has seen an uptick in usage. I've also seen a bit of a renaissance, sort of, a return to form maybe, of some Lightning Rod Pokemon.
Right.
Yesterday, I think we saw 2 Marowaks. I don't know if we have any in top
yeah,
cut
so
today.
one of those one-ups we talked about actually is a Marowak, so we will see probably one of those Celesteelas. I have to double-check, but there is a Marowak that can be protecting a Celesteela, theoretically, in this cut. There is no Togedemaru, though, so that is the only Lightning Rod user we're going to be seeing today.
Yeah, unfortunately, I personally love Togedemaru. I think it is a great Pokemon. I've played around a ton with it, but it's... I actually thought we'd see more of it today, to be honest with you.
To be honest, did we see any yesterday?
I don't think so.
Okay.
The thing that's really interesting to me looking at this team sheet is we actually have very few Arcanine and Garchomp compared to a lot of other regionals we've seen. A lot of other regionals we've seen almost close to 100% Arcanine.
Yeah, Arcanine at Virginia, at least, was on, I believe, every single top cut team. And here we only have it on half the teams at 4.
Yeah, so that's a really interesting change. As I was saying before, I think players are able to deal with it a little bit better. I'm not totally sure what's driving that yet. We've seen a lot of interesting techniques. Possibly one reason is I know we saw a lot of Double Duck yesterday.
Right. And speaking of Double Duck, we do have one Double Duck player in the top 8.
Yes.
So that team definitely is no slouch, has shown that it's been able to work.
For sure. And Garchomp too. Garchomp, one of the biggest threats of the season. It always has been. It's a great Pokemon, great stats, great typing. So to see it sort of fall off, there's been a lot of talk. There's not a lot of ground resistance in this metagame, right? So Garchomp can fire off ground EMZs very safely, and It's really interesting to see that it's fallen off a bit, possibly because of this resurgence in Celesteela, possibly because of these Double Ducks that are so easily able to threaten it.
Earlier on, I was also a bit worried of Tapu Bulus, just because grassy terrain reduces the power of your Earthquakes, making it so that your only ground move really is the ground EMZ move, because of just how little those Earthquakes hit when the grassy terrain's out. But speaking of Tapu Bulu, there's only one of these also in our top cut.
Yeah, Nicholas Borghi, Light Core, was the only person using Tapu Bulu, an incredibly strong Pokemon, but a lot of people have found that it's very weak to a lot of common metagame threats. Poison Jab is on plenty of Pokemon. Fire types, especially Arcanine, have been running wild, though in this tournament we've seen a decrease in usage of them, so possibly that shift has allowed Tapu Bulu to maybe shine through. I think the most interesting thing I want to talk about in this top cut is that Xurkitree.
Yeah, there are 2 players with Xurkitree, which is a Pokemon that I've barely seen this whole format.
Yeah, and I don't think either of them are running Tailwind. I know a lot of times we see, at least in my experience playing Xurkitrees, I see Clefairy or to get some redirection, or possibly even some Tailwind to boost up Xurkitree's speed so that it can really plow through everything. And I don't think either of these players, I believe it's Ian McLaughlin and Josh Lorsey, are using Tailwind. So it's really interesting to see what they're going to try and do with that. One thing that I have noticed, though, in a lot of our teams and when we've been commentating this, there's not a lot of teams that have a lot of resistance to Xurkitree. We say Tapu Koko is a really, really great electric type, and it is, but it's easier to KO.
Right.
And it just doesn't have that same damage output that Xurkitree can really reach.
Yeah, that damage output really showed up in Josh's match yesterday, where his Xurkitree basically cleaned up his opponent.
Yeah, and Josh has been telling me that just having something like Xurkitree, and if the opponent brings in their Tapu Koko, you power up that Xurkitree so much more. It's already doing so much damage, and you've just powered up its electric attacks even more. It's devastating for the opponent, and there's not a lot of things that are... There's a couple of Marowaks, there's a couple of things here and there, but nothing's really as... There's no main concrete resistances to Xurkitree in this format.
Yeah, that seems like a fair option, and 2 players at least agree with you.
For sure.
Going down, I'd like to point out some of the more interesting one-ups we have in this. Specifically, I'm really excited to see Vanillux, Smeargle, Machamp, and Hariyama coming in.
Oh, yeah. So, let's address those in order. We had Vanillux. Vanillux is... It's interesting. It has to compete for a slot with Ninetales. They're both hail setters, and they both bring 100% blizzards. Vanillux is slower but stronger, so a lot of people have opted to use Choice Scarf. I believe Trista was running her Vanillux yesterday, and I believe yesterday we saw that Choice Scarf come through. It's just an incredibly powerful Pokemon, and it can really put a lot of pressure on opposing Garchomps. Garchomps love to deal a lot of damage, and though we've been seeing less of them in this top cut, it might have really helped Trista out during Swiss rounds when she might have ran into more Garchomps.
Well, we did see in her top cut match that Vanillux seemed to do a lot of work. Not top cut, but rather her Swiss round match that we put on stream. That Vanillux seemed to do a lot of work. She brought it all 3 games.
For sure. Just being able to reset that rain, which a number of people I saw yesterday were running. Being able
and is still present in the top cut.
And is still present in the top cut, though we only have 1 player. And just being able to put out lots of fast, really strong damage. Going down the list, I think we said...
Smeargle was the next Pokemon I mentioned, actually.
Smeargle's interesting. Smeargle's very...
He's kind of was the boogeyman of last year.
For sure. Smeargle is run by Ian McLaughlin. He loves Smeargle. I spoke with him a ton. He loves Smeargle. He thinks it's one of the best things to ever come into the format.
Sure, a lot of people disagree.
I'm sure a lot of people disagree there, but he thinks it's one of the greatest things. When I talked to him earlier, I think he was saying stuff about how he likes how it sort of feels similar to Xerneas Smeargle, which was really popular last year. He likes that it can redirect. He likes how it can support. He likes how it can play around a lot of things. And it's one of the few things in this format that gets access to Spore, right?
Right. Which is still a very powerful move. You did lose Dark Void, but Spore is still 100% accurate. That it has a few issues that it can't hit grass types because of it being a powder move.
And with the inclusion of Tapu Fini and Tapu Koko, it's unlikely to... It's a lot harder to put things to sleep in this format. That being said, Ian also runs a plethora of Ultra Beasts who happen to deal very well with the Tapus. So I think he's more than willing to take those matchups with the Tapus and just run with that Smeargle.
Do you think we're still going to see Smeargle out of him despite the six Tapu Koko and 2 Tapu Fini in this cut?
Oh, for sure. He loves it. He's going to use it to probably get some follow me's off. He's probably going to use it to spore as much as he can and just threaten with his Ultra Beasts. They're so powerful when they get set up, especially with that Beast Boost ability. And he can just start sweeping with them.
Moving down the list, we actually see Machamp, which we also were able to see on stream. That was a really exciting just set for the Machamp. Sam did lose that match on stream, but he was able to win out the rest of his and make his way into this top cut.
Yeah, I've heard about this Machamp. I didn't personally get to see it. I know most typical Machamp run Dynamic Punch and the the ability that doesn't allow you to miss. No guard. Thank you. I was blanking on the name. But this Machamp was running Cross Chop and Stone Edge, I believe you saw on stream.
Yeah, it was using some just increased crit moves that had slightly lower accuracy, and still getting a lot of advantage out of that no guard, being able to 100% hit moves, which might not always be super confident using.
I was walking around the venue, and some people told me they saw it on stream, and everyone was freaking out about it. So I'm really excited to see it. I don't really know what it does. I just sort of heard about it, right? Like, I'm excited to see it. We're actually going to possibly see it in our first match. We're going to be streaming Sam versus Martin, so we'll possibly see Sam's amazing Machamp that's been everyone's been talking about.
And finally, let's go down to Hariyama, also a fighting type. Haven't seen many fighting types in general in this format, personally, just because of the prevalence of the Tapus and their strong fairy moves.
For sure. A lot of the fighting types this format tend to be having weaker defenses. You look at Buzzwole with its very low special defense. You look at Pheromosa with its garbage defenses, but incredible attacking stats. A lot of players are a little bit concerned about the trade-off of bulk versus offense. They're great to have, and they're great threats, but losing them early on can really cost you a match.
Yeah, and it's really easy to lose them when they take super effective hits from a Pokemon that's on almost every team.
For sure. The Hariyama is really interesting, though. The Hariyama is being run by Joshua Lorcy, and Josh is running it very interestingly. He doesn't have Trick Room. Normally we've seen Hariyama run with Trick Room. He's not doing that. It's almost feels like it's in a bit more of a support role.
Just fake out options are good enough?
Hariyama's really interesting because it's one of those more defensive fighting types. If he's using it that way, just that defensive fake out pressure, if he wants, he can close combat into some of the fighting weak Pokemon that generally that have been running rampant in the format, Snorlax and Porygon 2. So I think
he's playing it kind of like a Hitmontop almost?
Oh, maybe, almost, but without the Intimidate, without sort of a support mon. So, and on top of that, I guess it does help him with the Trick Room matchup should it come up. But it doesn't feel like he's using it in that way. It really feels like he's trying to pressure with just that Hariyama and then pairing it with that Xurkitree to allow it to boost up very quickly and deal a lot of damage. It was really playing a support role. When we saw him play Nicholas Borghi Light Core earlier in Swiss, he was constantly switching out that Hariyama to reset fake out pressure to bring that Xurkitree up to incredibly high attacks, special attack stats.
Yeah, I believe it actually hit +6 in one of our matches, so
yeah,
that thing hits hard once it's at 4 times damage.
So I definitely think Hariyama can be a threat. Josh has been tweeting a ton about how good he thinks Hariyama is, even outside of Trick Room. He even told me the other day if Xurkitree was not his MVP, Hariyama definitely was.
Well, he definitely proved it with the 7-0 finish in Swiss.
For sure. So it looks like we're going to have an incredible top cut. It's just, I'm super excited. Super excited, Sean.
These should be some great matches. A lot of interesting tricks that we'll see coming out. Going to love to see how these players interact and with each other. And we still got some surprises coming through with a lot of one-ups that I just haven't seen much of.
Yeah, for sure. I'm super excited. I think we're going to cut off now, and we'll be back with you guys with our first top 8 match. That will be Sam Parton versus Martin G, representing Canada for both of us. We're going to stream the Canada matchup.
Yeah, these are both Ontario players that I've seen around a lot. I'm really happy for them for both being in this top cut, but they've definitely put in the work, and they've shown it with great 6-1 finishes yesterday.
For sure. We'll be back with their match as soon as they're done hack check. All right, guys?